Hello, everyone. Paul here with Jeremy. And today, we want to talk to you about starting a game of Dungeons and Dragons or any TTRPG in your local game store. We started a couple years ago running games at our local game store, and we have developed a little bit of knowledge to help you kind of run your own game. Why should you run a game at your local game store? Jeremy?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the best thing about your local game store, hopefully the best thing about your local game store, is that there's already a community of people there that are interested in the same things you are. So, you could be meeting new friends, other DMs, potential players that you would get. Sometimes the store themselves will support you. So stores, because they are vendors of, say, for instance, Wizards of the Coast content, that gives them the ability to be able to post games up on Wizards of the Coast site. They might be able to give you resources, like they have at our game store. They have a bunch of terrain and things that we can just use, pick up off the shelf, put back when we're done, things like that. Sometimes the game stores, some of the ones around us, pay the DMs in store credit. Some, might give you a discount for running there. Not that that's necessarily your main reason for going there, but again, might be something that is an enticement, if you will.
Yeah, and there's you can also get a good amount of practice. We have a DM that we play games with that will use our Tuesday night kind of drop-in game as practice for his paid games that he runs on Start Playing. So he'll kind of test encounters with the players there before he brings it to that space. And also networking. There's a lot to be said with connecting with other DMs in person to be able to talk through problems and encounters and share the exciting things that you're finding in new content. And, also bringing other people into those conversations that might want to DM down the road. And welcoming also, one of the rewarding things I know for me is welcoming new players to the hobby. Someone walking up to the table and going, I'm interested in doing this. What do I do? I'm too scared to play. And then you going, here's a pre-generated character. Welcome to the club. And then all of a sudden they go hard and it is their new favorite drug. That is a definite high for me that I chase sometimes.
Absolutely. It's great to be able to do that and yet be able to also bring in experienced players, because the best thing about the experienced players too is that they're going to challenge you. They're going to help out that new player. So you don't have to sit there and mind and lead them the whole time, because they're going to be bringing their game too and saying, hey, I know you're playing a fighter. Let me remind you about that ability you have. That might be a great opportunity to use it here.
Yeah, 100%. And they'll help spell selection, all of these things. It is all part of building that kind of community in and around your game. We have a very unique game in that we have multiple tables, 4 or so tables, sometimes running at the same time, either different one-shots or the same campaign. But all of these people have now developed these friendships. They play Baldur's Gate 3 together. They talk about what they're reading. They make suggestions. All of these things. They talk about food and trips and their trips to New Zealand and all of these things. And it is very rewarding to kind of have that kind of atmosphere and be part of it and fostering it. So if you're thinking about running your own game and you want to get your feet wet, how do you get started? That is a great question, which we are now going to answer.
Yeah. So first and foremost, if you're going to get started, keep it simple. Don't come in and say, I'm going to run Cursus Strahd, and I've never done this before in the game store. Pick up a module, something that'll run 2 to 3 weeks. Pick up one-shots. Run one-shots for a while before you're ready to deep dive into something else. The great thing about doing that, one, is that if you are interested in building that community, especially if it's not already there, people can drop in. It's like, hey, I've got this Tuesday night off. Next Tuesday night, my manager is having me do inventory, so I can't be there. It allows sort of a free flow of players in and out of your game. It just makes it nice, from that aspect. It also allows you to jump around a lot. So this week, I'm going to run a pirate campaign. Next week, it's going to be a heist in a museum. The week after that, we're going into the jungles to fight dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And you can kind of figure out what you like, because this is all about you as well, right? Not just being a service DM to the game store, but, figure out your own style, figure out what you like, what you don't like. And this gives you a great opportunity to do that.
If you're comfortable with running something, run that 100%. There are a lot of variables when it comes to a game store. And if you have your material on lock, that's one less thing you have to worry about. So if you are confident with Lost Mines of Phandelver, run Lost Mines of Phandelver. If you are comfortable with a couple of one-shots that you have written, run those one-shots, because that is one less thing that you're going to have to worry about when it comes to a game store. Because part of running that game in the game store is going to be doing some research, knowing the space, actually going to the game store, knowing the layout. Do you have to reserve tables? What is that process like? How busy is it at the time that you're planning on running? That is a really great question to ask, because volume can sometimes be an issue. Sometimes I have to yell as a DM just for my players to be able to hear me. And then any of the store policies when it comes to age restrictions. Are the players going to have to pay to play? And, any of those other small things that the game store might have in place. There's going to be helpful staff there that are going to be able to answer these questions for you. We'll talk about it a lot more, but you should join the Facebook page of the store, as well as any community discords that they have. They will commonly have one general discord, and sometimes they might have sub discords for specific things like board gaming, card gaming, tabletop gaming, whatever it might be. But make sure you're engaging on there as well. That's a great place going to be a great place to promote yourself and really start learning about the people that are playing in the store and what they're looking for.
Yeah, and that's a great way to kind of transition into the next topic is, how do you find these players, right? We're in an interesting situation where we have a lot of DMs, and we don't necessarily fill our tables all the time. And we have people waiting in the wings to, come in and say, oh, yeah, I want to DM a game. And so getting on those community pages, whatever they are, if it's again, Facebook, a Discord, whatever the case may be, kind of seeing and being able to gauge the interest of folks to see like, hey, would I be able to pull enough players in here at this store or not? Maybe they're super focused on Warhammer and that's what they do and that's all they do. And so you might not be able to pull folks out of the woodwork for that.
100%. And you just go out there and go, hey, I'm interested in running a game. Are there interested players? You are going to get, most likely, a list of people going, I'm interested.
Yep.
When does it start? Can I be there in 10 minutes? People want to play Dungeons and Dragons. People want to play TTRPGs. And one of the methods that I often recommend is, set your own parameters. This is what I'm running on this date, at this time, and this often. And then let the players kind of come to you. You can also try to find a group of players, 4, 5, 6 players, bring them all together, and then try to find a day or a time that works well for you. That can be a nightmare.
It's a meme for a reason.
Yep. 100%. The ultimate big bad of Dungeons and Dragons is scheduling. But going in my personal life, Tuesdays, 6:30, every single week is something that I want to do.
Yep.
And that's what you put out there. Players will come to you. You will find enough players for that time if you put in the work.
Correct. The one thing you would have to do, and this kind of feeds into this as well, is, also be very clear about your expectations. the game store may have a set of rules, code of conduct.
Mhm.
So if you're coming to play here, you've got to follow that. You know, feeding, we are going to run from 6:30 to 9:30 every day. We may don't even mention that you may go over just for okay, we've got 10 minutes left of this combat. Let's do that. But set your guidelines, set your boundaries, especially if you're running during the week, because some of your most of your players are going to have jobs. They want to, come play, but they don't want to stay up until 11 o'clock at night because they've got to get up for work the next day. So put out all of that stuff right up front. And then some people are going to look at that and say, no, thanks. And that's okay. And then there's going to be the list of players that does show up and say, hey, I want to do this.
And also being clear about any rules that are specific to you. Things for us is we don't do flanking. We allow additional spell and wizard books. There are homebrew rules that we generate as DMs that we like to use at the table, whether it be max HP if you use a full action to drink a potion. Whatever is unique to you, be upfront about so that you're not surprising your players down the road. Create a little blurb that says, this is the game, this is the setting, these are my rules, this is character creation. We're not going to be rolling, we're going to be using standard array or point by, whatever it might be that makes this game yours. That is your pitch. That is your pamphlet. That is your brochure that you're handing out to people to try to get them, because then they're going to want you for you. Not just Dungeons and Dragons for Dungeons and Dragons. They're going to get excited about you and your game. And that is something that isn't something that can be overlooked, but is very important in my opinion.
Yeah. And the last thing we can talk about here, and it's going to be more than likely a problem, is that you're going to have more players than you know what to do with. Mm-hmm. It is our opinion, based on our experience, that you should not just say, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take 8 players on my table, because everybody is going to suffer because of that. Mm-hmm. You're going to suffer. Sometimes this works. Obviously, we've seen it work in, online places, Critical Role being the big one with these large party sizes. But again, that is because they have a well-developed group. And this is going to be a bunch of strangers starting off, more than likely. So keep your group size down. Maybe you need to start pulling in other DMs as you slowly build up, which is kind of what happened with us as we, slowly built up our player base. Somebody else wants to DM. Let's bring them in on Tuesday nights. Yeah. So that nobody is, feeling overwhelmed, especially for a new DM, to say, oh gosh, I guess I've got to do this table of 8 people and I'm going to, be crazy because of it.
And never put yourself in a situation that you're uncomfortable with. Be prepared to say no. Be prepared to Absolutely. Say no to things that you're not comfortable with at the table. And that might be something like an evil character or something in a backstory that you're not comfortable with if you're trying to do something more episodic longer term, or certain interactions between, class ability skills and spells that just doesn't work with the game that you're trying to build. There are going to be players that want to min-max, and there are players that are going to come in with their fun, whimsical characters that do 2d4 plus 2 damage each round. And making sure that everybody's having a good time at the table should be your key focus when it comes to engaging with your players.
And we can talk briefly. We have not experienced it much. Talk briefly about setting the there's a lot of great tools out there for your session 0. A way to set the boundaries of your tables. We will not have romance at the table. We will not have any mention of any topic that could bring somebody, trauma, triggers, things like that. Mm-hmm. Especially in a scenario where you are running with, might be different people each week. Narrow your focus way down, and say, this is what the rules are. These are what I'm, the boundaries that I am putting up. And then be polite. Engage with the store staff if you need that assistance to have that bad player removed, get up from the table, shut them down if they are not willing to do that.
There are plenty of tools that we've developed over time, and in your local game store, there will be people who have had to have these conversations with people that can help you and guide you. 100%.
That's right.
And a big part of that conversation is also making sure you continue your communication, wrapping up that game and starting to build that community, thanking your players for playing, giving a quick recap on Discord about the fun that you guys had at the table, the adventure, what your players did, so that they feel like they're part of this story, that they're part of this game, and then planning the next session.
Yeah, and encourage them to participate in that process too, right? Just to stay on that point for a second, Paul. Our players will occasionally post up pictures on Discord, like we took a picture of the battle map that we were using because crazy things were going on, and I'm going to put a blurb up about that. Like again, that helps them enjoy the process. They go back and look at that, but it also might bring in more players and more GMs if they see like, hey man, this is active. People are enjoying themselves, and go from there.
100%. And then reaching out to players individually and enforcing the positives and addressing the negatives. You're going to not have a lot of negatives. We have not experienced a ton of negatives, but saying like, hey, something was inappropriate at the table. Like, I would like it if you didn't do this next time. Or really encouraging the people that are helping new players is something that I love to do. Thanking them for helping. We have a newer player, Chris. Thanks for helping Chris with these to keep combat moving. I really appreciate that. And I think it really increased the fun that they were having at the table. They didn't feel like they were slowing down combat because they felt like they were able to move faster with your assistance. That's a huge thing. And also circling back with store staff and being like, this is great. Building those relationships week after week so that you can kind of foster a community, which I think is out of everything, the thing that we are most proud of having created in our space is having this community of Dungeons & Dragons and TTRPG players that enjoy spending every Tuesday night at the game store playing with each other.
Yep, absolutely. It's great that we get to play D&D every week, but it's better that we've have this group of people. And we had a player recently. She has DM'd a couple times, and just comment on the fact that like we have such a welcoming and creative environment that it just encourages people to say, hey, you know what? I might want to DM sometime. How do I get there? What do I need to do? And the best thing about it too is that you can get these people that you've been, interacting with this whole time, and they're going to be gentle with you, if you will. They're going to be encouraging as you're running your first game. They're not going to be like, well, gosh, why didn't you know that rule? Or, you fobbed this thing, right? It's just, it makes it nice for everybody involved. Yes. And again, fostering those new DMs is a great thing that comes out of that.
The best people to have at your table as a first-time DM are other DMs. 100%.
Yep.
Because they're going to be helpful and nurturing and be able to give you feedback. And they want you to DM so they can play every once in a while.
That's right. That's
100%. Right. But you can do this. Like, anyone can do this. I did not DM up until my Tuesday night game. Not a game that I ran in existence. And then on Tuesday nights was the first time I did it. I was nervous. It was actually a poor experience at a table that gave me the confidence to do this. I'm like, if this is the experience that this DM is giving us, I can do better than this. And I have. And you can too.
Absolutely.
100%. If you focus on the fun of your players, you do your research, you engage in the community that already exists at that game store, and you want a positive experience for your players, you've already won. You have
That's
already
right.
succeeded, because you are not worried about the nitty-gritty of, winning D&D. You are worried about having a fun time playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Mhm.
Good.
That's right. Yeah. So again, check out your fully local game store. It's a great resource. Even as a player, it's go look there. The other thing, and we're just going to give a brief mention to not only the fully local game store, but libraries. Look for places where clubs might be running, because again, I'm sure that they would be more than happy to bring on a new DM to help them expand out their club, to expand out the group at the library, or again, at the game store.
And commonly, libraries are less noisy than local game stores.
Absolutely.
So,
all right, everybody. Well, thank you. Get out there, connect with that group. You're going to have a great time.
100%. Keep fun as your focus. Join the Discords, engage with the people around you, and you too can have a community just like the one that we've created at our local game store.
Thank you. And if you are enjoying our content, be sure to like and subscribe.